Well, a lot going on today. You know, I've tried to do this video like 7 times. At least 7 times. And I'm running out of data, so I had to keep it down. No rambling, no babbling. But I was still a little depressed over the weekend. So I was trying to explain what took place on the weekend and what we've done to combat some of the issues we had. Obviously, I can't do anything about missing the Gold Cup. Freedom Hill, I think, was pretty explanatory. We haven't got her blood back yet, but given the fact of what she went through, she didn't go through a rainstorm. She went through a storm. It knocked the power out at Scioto on 3 different occasions, and she was in the midst of warming up through all of that. Now, every horse had to do it, but every horse is a little bit different, and I think it's reasonable to believe that that's all that happened with her. There was no lameness with any of the issues. Even with Chicago Hall, that was the one that bothered me the most, was Chicago Hall. And I think it bit me a little bit because an hour before his race, I was driving past Mohawk because I had left the airport from the Gold Cup and Saucer. And although I certainly would never be as disrespectful as enough to drive there and say, "Hey, Chris, you're off. I'm driving the horse." That would be rude. There was that little voice inside me saying, "Hey, you do have this horse racing in the Wellwood." Now, Chicago Hall had been a lock mentally all year, that there was no issue with him making a break. Maybe he gets beaten fair and square, but not make a break. And certainly not act like a little child at a grocery store. And that's how he acted the other night. I couldn't quantify what I was looking at. I couldn't understand what I was seeing. And I was going to go with him today, and I think James knew that. And I don't think he knew that I was here. And he too, even though he picked over the horse, James always wants to see us have our best foot forward. And he went with him this morning. He was there because Hasty Bid is back in Ontario, and he jogged Chicago Hall. I got there and I wanted to talk to Dominic because I didn't blow up, but I was abrupt with him the other night. And this happens. I got a lot of pressure on myself, and he has a lot of pressure on himself also. But, I want to know what was up with the horse, what went on with the horse. Chris didn't give him a lot of feedback. He gave me more feedback, which, yes, honey. Well, you got to have a nap. Because we're going back. All right, well, what you're going to do is you're going to sit there quietly for a few minutes, okay? That was the deal when I gave you gummies, right? Was that not the gummy deal we made? Okay, high five. No, if you're good in 5 minutes, I might give you one. So there was nothing rude about it, but I wanted there to be a sense of stress from my end also. I'm your partner. I do own shares in Chicago Hall. I think he is one of the best horses in Ontario. I certainly don't think he's a layover, a locker, or even if you were to be unbiased and line all the best horses up on Ontario, that anybody would pick him. But me, knowing the horse, knowing his breeding, knowing his gait, his speed, I believe he is one of the best horses. And what I was shocked with was how he acted up. And I wanted to get to the bottom of it. I didn't get a chance to. I got there, James had already gone with him. He didn't know I was there, and he said, "Oh, I didn't know you were here. That horse is fine." I said, "Well, clearly he's not fine." He goes, "I don't know what get into him the other night." I said, "But he jogged great. The horse is 100% sound. There's no issue." It's really hard for me just to chalk it up to a bad race because it was a major race. But, like everybody else, I have to turn the page. And then having all these games rained out on Sunday, his biggest games, only threw fuel on the fire. And there's zero expectations there, but I did want to pick myself up by watching my son play baseball and not in the pouring rain. So you can go. Away you go. There you go. Yeah, we speed up. There you go. Why do people do that? They're going to slow down changing lanes on a highway. Anyway, I don't think I'm one to be giving driving lessons, I suppose. So Saturday overall was a great, No, it wasn't a great day. It was a good day. Save America race great. Rock Shining Star race very good. No complaints. 3 Point Blue Chip race great. Time Is on My Side was fantastic. And there is one of the most interesting storylines of the entire summer right now. We're going to talk about Kentucky in a minute and how impressive the horses were there. We already know, I can talk about Arrowhead Hanover, and I was a little frustrated yesterday, but we'll talk about that briefly also. A lot of good horses and a lot of really cool storylines coming out of our barn this summer. None more impressive than Time Is on My Side. That one thing I said, even James said, we were talking about, he said Casey's horse was good, he could beat fair and square. Todd's horse was great. Toddy's horse was fantastic. And aside from that, James said, a lot of those horses, it's a long year for them and they're getting a little tired. And I said, well, that's the coolest thing about the entire situation. And most importantly, time is on my side, is that every time he steps on the track, he gets a little bit better. And even Mark, who had driven him earlier in the year, said to me, what a different horse. He said, man, oh man, if I get away where Yannick gets away, I'm not going to say, hey, I beat them, but I would have loved to find out. He said, I guarantee you I'm third. But I would have loved to see what he'd done if I had been in striking distance at that lane. He said, Anthony, man, he's turned into a nice horse. And that's the same thing I said to Mark. I said, the thing I love about this colt is that we've virtually seen what everybody can do. I believe looking at them now, because I'm watching them a little closer, Captain Albano is improving. But we've seen the best of everybody else, I think. And none of them have seen the best of Time Is On My Side. So maybe I'm just being super optimistic. But I think the more he races against these horses, the better he gets. And that could be a really, really interesting timeline come the end of the season. So impressive there. Lonely Lakewood didn't even get to talk to him with everything talk about him with everything going on. The horse raced great. Good for him. And Aunt Lily raced fantastic also. A lot of emails coming in today. Aunt Lily, are we going to the Buckeye? Are we going here? Most importantly, I had somebody message me and say, Anthony, Irresistible Sun should go to the Sire Stakes and then to the race at Delaware, the State Fair race or whatever. Absolutely not. We are not going to put either of those colts in a position where they're going to get sucked into the final. What I mean by that is Burke's horse, Beaver's horse, and the other horse are the three best. Everybody else right now is locked into the final. There's 11 horses in the final right now. Now, obviously, they can't all go, and they're not all obligated to go. But 8 of them are. One sec, baby girl. 8 of them are obligated. That leaves 3 extras. Now, as of right now, there would be no consolation, and the final would go for 400. May as well go for 4 million. I have no interest in racing against Tennessee Tom and Spazzano just yet. Third place, going for 400, would be 200, 100, 50. Stop being silly. As of right now, we're going to get 50, hopefully, from what it looks like. I don't want to be too presumptuous, but Irresistible Sun is the best Buckeye horse in Ohio, I believe. Gypsy Hill is by points the best one, I believe. But not as good as Irresistible Sun. Of that I know. Now you still have the Great Equalizer. We saw that this weekend, which is post-position draw. But they're both making the final. Now I can make an argument for Gypsy Hill to make it into the final. If he's third best, which he may not be at all. So we're left working that out. So for Ray, who said we should race in the Sire Stakes, we're absolutely not racing Irresistible Sun anywhere near the Sire Stakes, because I think he's the horse to beat in the final of the Buckeye. I could make an argument to try and sneak Gypsy Hill in. Now, if other people do, now this is the problem, is that there's one division left, right? Or the fourth one coming up, I believe. We would have to race, hopefully not get enough points to get in the final, theoretically, and then have a consolation for 100, which is not guaranteed right now. In fact, there's such a washout in that division right now, they couldn't even fill the Sire Stakes, the last leg, which I've never heard of in my life. I've never heard of that. I thought you just had to race it. They didn't. Anyway, those are all discussions for another day, coming up soon, I would imagine. For right now, I want to talk about Sunday. We weren't without just a last bit of drama for the entire weekend, filled with drama, good and bad, that just had to kick us on the way out the door yesterday, and I'll explain that at the end. Starting off our day was Arrowhead Hanover. I think Brady wishes he had that race back. That 2-hole was as much a trap as it was a hole. He should have continued on to the front. The 6-horse doesn't move if Brady's on the front. The next favorites might have tried him, maybe not, but it's a totally different race if he pushes on to the front. I know Mike wanted to assert himself in the front end, but his horse was 6th best horse in there. And I'm sure after the race, after the rainstorm, after the race, Brady probably thought to himself, probably not where I should have been. But it was all born from trying to protect the horse and do the right thing. I certainly don't blame him for driving the way he did. I just think in hindsight, even he could probably look at it and say, not where I wanted to be. That happens. The horse was 4th. You know, he's going to make the final. He made good money again. I don't think there was a bunch wasted. There a couple of killers in there, but make no mistake, this is almost an exact mirror image of Lawmaker and White Tiger. We are not the favorites heading into the final, but we absolutely can win the final. And that's where the draw is going to have to come in. Is the horse healthy, sound, and ready to go coming in? Do I drive him good in the final? Do I make a mistake myself? Either could happen. But Arrowhead Hanover is a horse to watch for sure in the final. Manhattan Money, we needed to win. Brady drove the horse perfect. He was beat fair and square. Wasn't going to get another nickel. But I don't think he can make the Stallion Series final now. Need a little luck of the draw. He's got a couple little races left, but as I said to my partner Greg and the horse, you know what, here's the thing. Manhattan Money, he's going to be a nice 3-year-old. He's a gigantic animal. The fact that he's doing what he's doing on a regular basis is impressive enough. And I'm very, very happy with Manhattan Money. Obviously, I would love it if he was trotting 53, but he's going to be a nice 3-year-old. We put him away right, bring him back. He's another horse that fits. He's another horse that fits into that bring them back earlier in the winter type situation that we've been talking about so often this year. He's another horse that's going to fit into that program. Memento Mori was great. Bridesmaid again. Horse just kind of slithered through and beat him at the wire. He's got to finish off his, he's got to finish off his supper. He clears the front, punches through to the lead. He's got to trot away. He can't hang. And 54 flat is not hanging for a 2-year-old trotter in any way, shape, or form. But he is going to have to break out and have a breakout mile one of these times. Scott's done a great job with him. There was no shit. He couldn't have driven him any better last night than he did. Scott did a great job with him. Very happy in that regard. I think we have a real contender in there, and I was very happy with what I saw from Memento Mori. But I would love to see a breakout race from him, wrapped up, driving away. But it's a good group of horses. Gaslight Hall, that was paint by numbers. That was the best case scenario for us. Here's a horse coming in. I took a big risk sending this horse to Kentucky. His first lifetime start in Kawartha, his second lifetime start way down in Kentucky. This horse raced above Memento Mori last night. It poured rain. Memento Mori raced on a fast track, and then the rain came, and it was a swamp. Here you have a colt, new driver, new facility, new place, new climate, flip-flops, not good in Kentucky. Flip-flops in the mud, very bad in Kentucky. Jostled in the first turn. This horse is running over wheels and making breaks all around him. He just blows out around them. He's out the whole way. Never saw the inside yet. And finishes 5th. Couldn't ask that horse to race better than he did last night. He was amazing. And I believe, with a little bit of luck, that 5th will get us into the $400,000 fund. I could be wrong. A lot has to happen between now and the final. But because there's one division of 12, and there will be horses drop out, I think there is a better than a puncher's chance that we are going to find ourselves in the final. If this horse wins the next grassroots, he can race in the final in Kentucky and the grassroots final in Ontario. And so far we have been lucky in regards to that. And then came the drama. I'm actually having a good night. I shouldn't say not yet. Westland Warrior race good. The breaking rule is a little baffling to me. If you're going to scratch a horse and refund it, why not just refund it, leave it on the run at the back, let everybody else compete the race, not screw the whole race up. By having recall after recall, you ruin the race for the horses that aren't making a break. I get it, the three was acting up the first time. The second time he's on the run, just leave him at the back. Refund if you want, or not refund. They wouldn't in Ontario. They wouldn't anywhere. They would just call it a break, and if he was outside the fair start pole, you refund him, fine. But this 2 breaks on the dead run, you stop the race, recall twice, scratch the horse, take him off the board. What about the other 2-year-olds that weren't doing their work wrong? I have to believe that every horse, including ours, what's that, sweetheart? It's almost 5 minutes. Every horse was affected negatively. Westland Warrior raced as good as he could, finished 2nd in the slop again. But I thought he raced pretty good. And then, now, we'll talk about the drama. Racing in Minnesota, first start, down in the open 2, we're 8-5. 8 minutes to post, I turn on Kentucky. Flip back, 2 minutes to post, I turn on Kentucky. I watched the entire race. I'm happy. I just finished watching Westland Warrior finish 2nd after 16 recalls or whatever they had. I flip back to Minnesota, and there's 9 minutes to post again. I'm like, this is beyond drag. This is insane. And then I hear the announcer. Race 8 has been canceled. What? What do you mean race 8 has been canceled? We'll continue on with race 9. You'll do what? I don't understand. I'm calling everybody I can that would know what's going on. No one gets back to me. Then finally, Nick Lems calls me. He says, well, there was an incident after race 7. There was a medical emergency with a horse. And the race 8 Lasix timed out. Excuse me? Yes, you have Lasix 4 hours before the race. And I guess what happens is they give you an hour after that. Now that's the racetrack's drag also. I understand they're dealing with a situation, but there has to be two mindsets. Deal with the situation, make sure that everybody else gets to race. First happened, obviously, I'm sure very professionally. Second did not. So they canceled the whole race. That's not even the worst of it. They canceled the whole race. They're going to split up the purse money. Cool, great. But now, because the Wiseman's already gone, now what Nick is saying and Bob is saying is that Kings County is going to be up in the open with the horses that just raced in the Wiseman because we get to race next week. A weekend of drama, to say the least, is what took place this weekend. Turn the page. We're on to Monday. Bought a horse today, Tenacious Hanover. Made a video about him. He is, I don't see anything wrong with the purchase. I think it was a great purchase. Non-winners of 2. Fits the Sire Stakes in Pennsylvania. And race anywhere. Already shows a mile and 15 apiece. Pretty hard not to like that. Monday, we have Ontario. Got some horses in tough. Don't talk about Bruno and George in at Mohawk. That's never a good thing. We'll see how they race tonight. I don't understand why Mohawk wants to race Prospect City. That's what it is, right? Prospect. Yeah. Why in the name of God's green earth would Mohawk want to race Prospect races at Mohawk? I cannot understand this for the life of me. George of the Jungle and Don't Talk About Bruno are in Prospect races at Mohawk. 10-1 Bruno. 7-2 with George and James, so that's good. And All Gas, No Brakes. I said to James, he said the hobbles seem a little tight now. I said, James, you're driving the horse. You want to let the hobbles out, go ahead, but if it makes a break, I might choke you to death with the hobble strap. I think you're probably going to see James drive All Gas, No Brakes aggressively tonight. I think his hobbles will go out tonight, which they probably needed to go out. We've talked about this before. And I think Dominic will have a mildly decent night until we get to Brace for Landing. First start ever with no hobbles on, and somehow he ends up with the likes of Adair Castle. Now James is telling me Adair Castle doesn't have much money made. Okay, I get it. But still, he's in the 24,000 class, the optional 70 claimer. Brace for Landing will likely find his way over to Scioto. We got some horses we're going to move around. And I thought I'd explored all avenues. I'm Fancy Like has got 50-some thousand made. Oh, but you know what? They count fair wins in Ontario. That was the kicker. I knew there was an issue. Patricia had sent me a great email today and said, what about Fancy in Ontario? By money, she fits an onwards of 4, but that starts to get a little salty, right? Now, if they have a claimer for fillies and mares, let's say they have a 30, she would go for 50 to around 50,000, which would be enough. I'm going to have to check into it. I never thought of that, so I appreciate it. I do read everybody's emails, and I do take everything into consideration, and this is actually possibly a viable option for I'm Fancy Like after tonight. We'll see. We do have another horse coming up towards the end of the week that we are very close to acquiring. Pretty interesting situation. I'll enlighten you guys a little bit later, but I want to focus on everything going on today, tonight, tomorrow. According to the calendar, the only horse we have racing tomorrow is Arson. Who would have known? He's up in the 80,000 class, so good luck with everybody there. And then another email come in today for Purple People Eater. She's in Wednesday, but supposed to be back racing Sunday. There's no possible way we can do that. Well, first off, there is. We just race her Wednesday, Sunday. I know that Jason thought she was back in 5 days. Math was not the best. I think he thought that the race went on Monday. It goes on Sunday. So we are racing it 4 days. Do we scratch her Wednesday and race her in the Buckeye? Now, to Will, who had messaged me. She cannot make the Buckeye final, I don't think. Nor is she good enough to make the Buckeye final. She is good enough to do well in the Buckeye Consolation. One sec, sweetheart. She is good enough to do well in the Buckeye Consolation, which she's in currently right now. But my other problem I have is she is 6-5, going for 11,400. I'm unlikely to walk away from money that's supposed to be on the table for money that might and might not. She's not one of the top 8-9 Buckeye fillies. So if she catches a few of those horses, it's going to be a tough night for her regardless. Where 4 days earlier, 96 hours earlier, she's 6-5 from the rail going for 11-4. I'm more apt to say one of two things will happen. She will race Wednesday and not race Sunday. Or she will race Wednesday and then race Sunday. But I'm more apt to say she will race Wednesday first and foremost. Lovers Play, Victory Blue Chip. This will be Victory Blue Chip's last race for us. That goes on Wednesday. Rose Run AJ finds himself in a very interesting spot. 3-5. That's a nice morning line on. I like that one. 3-5 in the maiden. 5-2 on Victory Blue Chip. Our girl Lovers Play is back for more. She's even money morning line. Oh, am I ever liking this lineup? And Love and Affection, 9-2. I like it. So it looks like we're going to kick the week off well, hopefully. We'll see how that starts very soon. But for right now, I am on my way to Ohio. I will talk to you all very, very soon. I hope you're having a great day. Pay attention. At 6 p.m., the shares for Tenacious Hanover go up for sale. I don't hear anybody saying, I didn't know, and I went on and the shares were all sold. I got home from work. Unless you work late, you should be home. So by 6 o'clock, all the shares of Tenacious Hanover will be up, and everybody will have an option to buy them. That's the plan. So with that, I'm going to let you go. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Gloomy, miserable, cold day in Ontario, and the same on my way to Ohio. And it doesn't look like there's any sun anywhere. Just stay inside. Have a good day. Take care.